Welcome to the final session of day one of Tech. So we're going to go out with a bang now. Tech is thrilled to host the unveiling of Retail Week's Digital Leaders Power List for 2018, their ranking of the visionaries and innovators transforming UK retail. So without further ado, and to tell us more, I'm delighted to welcome to the stage now Liam Chennells. He's Retail Technology Director of Retail Week. Give him a big round of applause, please.
Good afternoon. So my name's Liam, I'm the Retail Technology Director at Retail Week and World Retail Congress, and I just have to say thank you so much for joining us on what is the last session of the day. I hope that today's not just been something where you can take away ideas and inspiration to take back to your business, but I actually hope that it's been a day of reminding us of what a privilege it is to work in the industry that we work in. The Digital List Top 100 was created to showcase the leaders in online retail that are really showing the way and that are the most powerful people in our industry. And as such, it gives me great pleasure to welcome our panel. So we have two people who are re-entries into the list, both of which have climbed, one of which into the top 10, and we have someone who's at the helm of a digital marketing business. So please welcome our panel. You can have your own seat, how about that? I've ended up on my own sofa.
Yeah, no, sorry about that.
So one of the things that we're going to focus on today is culture, and I'm looking forward to getting into the questions. But before we get into that, if you could just give us all an introduction as to who you are, who you work for, and what it is you do for that business.
Hi, nice to see you after speaking on the phone. So I'm CN Fate. I'm Digital Director at John Lewis. I look after the digital teams. That includes our product teams across web and apps, and our trading teams who look after the day-to-day business of trading, what is pretty much half of the John Lewis revenue. And over time, the notion of what is digital has stretched into shops, contact centers, and making things better for our customers every single day.
Hi, I'm Joel Palix. I'm the CEO of Fairunique. I joined Fairunique 5 years ago after many years in the beauty industry. We are a 200 people company, and our challenge is to now become an international leader in the online distribution of premium beauty products. So I hope to be able to speak a bit about the challenges in terms of organization and people in achieving that global position.
Hi, I'm Gary from Redeye. I am the one that's not on the list. These are the two that are on the list. I'm CEO, and my main responsibilities, I always say, I was at dinner last night and someone said, what does a CEO do? I am responsible for the strategy across the business, the culture of the business, and making sure that the people that work for us are given the best opportunity to make us a success as a business. So I'm dreadfully excited about listening to what these two guys have got to say and hopefully contributing myself.
Thank you very much. So the first question, as I say, we're going to centre this around culture and building the best team. So very simply, Sian, how do you feel that you build the best team in this new digital age?
I feel as though John Lewis has a slight advantage because our team is made up of partners. And that means that everyone who works on our digital estate has a vested interest in its success because we are building a business not just for profit, but for the future. And we all share in the profits of that business. So that's a great start, but it's also a highly collaborative and democratic business, so that people in my team have a say not just in the work that we do quite locally in terms of improving our digital interfaces, but also in what that means for the business and for some of those decisions, all the way down to what we might invest in, what we might prioritize. And I think for today's person working in technology, really seeing the benefits of the work that you do day in and out, and having some accountability and empowerment in choice is something that's a real differentiator.
So, Joel, you don't have the benefit of being in a partnership, so you don't have that sort of incentive for your staff. What is it that you do to build these teams in the way that's driving the success that you have?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I don't think we have the right team because we are always behind the needs of the business. In a business that is growing 30, 40% a year, there is always a gap, and you need to recognize that. And the team needs to know that. Some of the teams that were right yesterday will not be good for tomorrow. There is also a lot of turnover because we are seen as a very interesting place to get a learning. And a lot of younger people come to Feelunique just to have the Feelunique name on their CV, and then they go to something else. And that's fine. So we need to play with all of that. One thing I want to say is I can compare with previous experience when I was working in big groups. And in big groups or larger organizations, it's all about building consensus among the executive team. In a fast-growing business like Feelunique, we need to be very agile, and that means taking big decisions quickly, in fact taking risks. And the way to do that, and the way to do that, is to have a very big diversity in the executive team so that people don't agree, but at least we have kind of every angle of the decision being looked at, and someone can make a quick decision after that. So that means having personalities, but a kind of a panel of personalities in the executive team.
Do you find that having that diversity on your board and your executive team, does that have an impact on the people within the organisation from an aspiration perspective?
Certainly, the other day I was looking at nationalities. I think we have 40% of our staff that is non-UK. That's amazing. I mean, for a company that is mostly headquartered in London now. Yes, diversity is everywhere. We obviously have more women than men because our market serves women, so we need people that understand our final consumer. And I now have a good balance also of men and women at top executive level, which was not the case 4 or 5 years ago because the company was founded by two men.
Okay. So how do you feel that you build the best team? We've talked about the team that you've got and the successes you've had, but what is it you've done to make sure that that's the case?
I probably lean back a bit more to the partnership. I mean, obviously we're not a partnership, but I think about 40% of our company, 40% of the staff have some sort of ownership in the company, which it was always key for us to make everybody feel part of it. And most of the decision making, as much as possible, to an extent, you do need a diverse executive team that's going to make decisions and make them quickly. But the more empowerment we can put throughout the whole company, the better we felt people have responded and more involved. Most of the decision making is a top down, but actually we're trying to change that now to make it more up. So, for example, we put together our 6 business goals and objectives at the start of about 2 months ago, and we've now set that out across the whole business, and everybody in the business now has their own goals, and they all lead up into this. The key thing there is people want to know how they're going to impact. Good people, at least, want to understand what am I doing every day that impacts the end goal for the company, rather than I'm not coming in and just doing my job and going home. They actually feel they're making an impact.
Okay, so with digital in mind, we've talked about the ways that you're incentivizing these teams and the way that you're making them excited to be a part of the business. But where digital specific is concerned, how do you motivate these digitally savvy teams?
So I think there are a couple of things. The first thing is making sure that our people have access to customers, because I think it's that instant feedback. And on that front, we've put a UX lab, state-of-the-art UX lab, on the same floor as the development team. So we're no more than 50 meters from customers. And what that gives you is it gives you your end user, it gives you that instant feedback. So every day, 5 days a week, we have 5 customers a day coming in. And that means that no matter who you are, if you're a designer, if you're a developer, if you're a category lead, you can always see a customer and how they're interacting with your product digitally. We give our people the very latest tools. We've embraced Slack, but we've embraced every other mechanism to make sure that people can talk, including redesigning our office space so that everyone's in a U shape to facilitate conversation, because actually face-to-face conversation is really important. We've also embraced Agile, so small teams who are empowered using the latest technologies and the latest methodologies. And I think that's given people a sense of very quickly being able to see the fruits of their efforts. And then also embracing some of the latest coding technologies, so moving over to things like React so that we can have faster time to value on the front end, and embracing cloud on the back end. And these are technologies that people who really love digital want to work with. And my job is to make sure that I listen to them and that I can provide to them the tools that make working in this way really delightful.
In a bid to motivate a digitally savvy audience, by the way, Slido is the place for questions. So if you do have any, please get them in. We will have some time to answer them. So Joel, digitally savvy teams, how do you motivate them in your view?
Yeah, well, people that join Feel Unique, they usually come from larger organizations where maybe they were a bit frustrated and they wanted a more relaxed, kind of open environment. So we try to answer that with just what you said, very good tools. I think that's very important for employees to have the latest tools, the right machines, to see that the company is embracing innovation and actually offering them the state-of-the-art solutions in what they do. They are very specialized in CRM or in data, and there are some very good tools and solutions that we give them. On a more personal basis, I think most of them are pretty young and want to have a more flexible time management. So we are trying to accommodate that. I think the millennials in particular really have an aspiration for managing their time in a more personal way. So we've developed options for working from home or for accommodating their agenda. These are the things we try to do at Feel Unique.
So just quickly in that moment, so if there are businesses here that are thinking, right, we're going to employ working from home to accommodate these sort of younger members of staff that want to have control over where they are, what challenges have you had from the people that aren't perhaps what we define as younger, that don't want to work from home? Is that a challenge that you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I come from France, and in France we have a culture where holidays is basically 3 or 4 weeks in the summer and then 1 week in the winter, and everyone takes the holidays at the same time. So in the office, everyone was there at the same time. When I came to the UK, already I had to adjust because everyone was taking a week on holiday here and there, and organizations have adapted to that. And I think what I'm describing is just another stage. You need to find a balance, because obviously there must be moments when teams are together face to face, and you must have this important, almost physical need for being together. But with modern tools, with ConfCall, with there are many ways to work and deliver what is expected from the team, while also satisfying personal, I would say, aspirations.
So do you think that flexible working now is the rule rather than the exception?
Yes. I'm chatting to a friend of mine who's leaving a company and was looking for another company, and he just asked them what their rules were on it, and they just said, "Oh, well, you work 9 to 5:30," and he's just like, "But what are you? No, that's all you do." And he immediately disregarded. He didn't get past talking to them on the phone. It is. I mean, it is all of these guys have said. It's embracing modern ways of working. It's embracing collaborative tools, exactly, because that's how you get round not everybody in the same room. I've made a point ever since I've been the CEO to sit in the development team, because I think it's the heart of where everything's happening in our company. And there's probably 25 to 30 people in that team, but I never see more than 10 at any one time, but I do see them, but I see them on these massive screens around the room somewhere where they're at home or they're off, and 3 of them work in Greece and all this kind of stuff. So you've got to embrace the collaborative tools so you can get them all in the room at the same time. I think the other thing is, the one thing I've known for a long time is that digital people, and that isn't just young people, but I think just digital people have an opinion. They generally have an opinion, and that's why they'll work for you if you give them a chance to have that opinion. And we have town halls every month Everybody can ask any question. We've never ducked one. I think it's important that you build people into that. And you've also just got to trust as well. That's the other thing. It's young, old, doesn't really matter. We employed a 16-year-old coder as an apprentice 3 years ago. And there was someone told me straight away, she's probably the best coder we've ever seen. And she was just working in email at that point. 3 years later, she's now the lead tester because she's good enough, so you trust them. And everybody else sees that. Everybody else across the business sees, actually, if I work hard and I'm the most talented, it's not about how long I've been around. But that also doesn't mean, with the conversation we had on the phone on Friday, that doesn't mean if you're a 63-year-old that's been working in Oracle for 20 years, doesn't mean you have an opinion, because in actual fact, you bring something that these other guys have never listened to before. So you've got to empower people, and that's what digital people want. They want to have a say, and they want to be flexibility, I suppose.
So on your point about hiring a 16-year-old, I'm going to go to you first on this question, because one of the things that we hear a lot is that retailers are struggling to acquire the tech and the digital talent because of the technology businesses that get it. But you're also competing for technology talent in your own right. You're competing against other technology firms in different locations with different technology stacks that are interesting to people. Is there anything that you've done as a business to try and attract the best talent into your firm?
Yes. Number one, because we kind of are in the middle of nowhere. We're a slightly odd location where we are. So the first thing we had to do was make the office, because it is important. It is. I don't think it's a specific digital thing, but it's a millennial thing. That an office work environment that you're proud of. That, you know, we're not talking about Google offices or anything like that, but somewhere that people come in and they're comfortable and they enjoy it. I think that's important because that makes an impression when people come to see you for the first time. And obviously, getting them in, you've got to be flexible. You've got to be, you know, I wouldn't say never use a recruitment agent, but I find that the best talent we've got, majority of it has come via direct and personal approaches. Mm-hmm. You know, one of the things we do a lot, particularly with the dev and the tech teams overall, is we really encourage the teams to be in the industry and go out there to talk to everything else. And often, because they'll hear about our company via these people, they'll come direct via those guys, you know. And I've heard for a long time, be careful, don't send your developers out there, because, you know, because we're near Manchester, and the average developer lasts no more than 6 months in a company. We have a 95% retention rate in our development team because we give them the freedom to do what they want. And we also, to your point about young people, is we realized about 4 years ago that it was difficult to attract people, so going for apprentices was it's a huge part of what our philosophy's been, is find apprentices, bring them through, because then they understand the culture of the business.
Any thoughts?
Well, we have probably a slightly different approach, which is we were quite early in digital in 2001, and actually I have people in my team. So one of my heads of product has been in the business for 28 years now, but he started as having a Saturday job in menswear in Kingston. He's now a fantastic product person. There is nothing about payments he does not know, but. Our challenge is to make sure that we develop people's careers, and if we can identify people who have a passion for customers, who have a curious mind, and we can take that curious mind somewhere and lead it into exciting places and continually to challenge people and retain them in the business if they have value. We have a duty of care to make sure that we continually make sure that people's skills are up to date. So we have a really active program of making sure that we've identified the skills, the hot skills that we need, and we have a solid program of training people through those skills and coaching people to acquire those skills, and then rotating them through the business, so especially through the dev teams, so that they can test those skills and say, is this for me? So everything from tasters through to different ways of embedding people in teams. This gives you a real diversity of thought and a diversity of person. So you've got young, you've got old, men, women, whatever you need in a team. It's actually quite easy for us to mix up those teams. And I think that's a challenge for us to communicate to people coming in, and this is across both Waitrose and John Lewis. If you start here, and you might go off and study and come back, that there is a role for you, there is a really great and exciting role in technology, but that we'll make sure that we commit to developing you and your skills as you go on, and make sure that you are fit for the company, because we have a duty of care to make sure that that's in place for you. And there will be some people who leave, but equally we've also had people come back in, because there is also a period of one's life where it's exciting to go out and see what's out there, and designers and UX want that diversity of different product type. But we also need to be open enough to embrace people and bring them back in with everything they've learned in the outside world.
So the skills that you mentioned, skills profiling and working out which skills, Joelle, you're in our leaders list, the top 100 digital people that are going to shape the industry. So in your view, we hear Jack Ma last week, he was talking about how emotional intelligence is a skill that he's really looking for from the people that are going to drive retail. What are the skills that you're looking for in the people that you're recruiting, but also in your organisation for future digital leaders?
Thinking about the previous question, I wanted to speak about fashion, because, and this will answer partly what is your next question. We are seeing a lot of candidates and a lot of people that have understood that the next big wave in e-commerce is beauty. Fashion was 5-10 years ahead of beauty, but now beauty is catching up in terms of penetration of e-commerce, and that means a pool of talents that did very good at ASOS, Net-a-Porter, Farfetch, Boohoo, etc. Wants now to go for a bit more of the startup, smaller type of business that they used to have in those companies, and that brings a lot of people to a company like Feelunique. And I think fashion has understood quite well how to express this emotional intelligence in the way that sites have been built. Each site has its own identity, and I think beauty is still looking for what is the perfect navigation, what are the ways to combine the multiple journeys of a purchasing beauty, because sometimes you are very emotional, you want to indulge yourself, but sometimes it's very precise, you want to solve skin issues that you have. So yeah, emotional intelligence is very important. Obviously, I'm going to speak about data and AI because you would be surprised if I was not. We see a massive need for processing all the data that we are now accumulating, and here the fight for the skills is a real issue, because those data scientists are being searched for by a lot of people.
Yeah. So forgive me for the example here. If we look at football clubs,
Okay.
what they did is they had an academy for under 18s. The football clubs scout people at 6, 12 years old. So we've got a business here today that takes people from schools and profiles them. Are there any instances where you've been working with organisations that is maybe not just graduates, but people younger and being involved in education and having an intro in there?
Yeah. So we have an active program supporting Code Academy,
Okay.
and specifically within that, coding for girls. But also coding for diverse communities where that might not be a recognized path. So you can't be what you can't see. So I think if you see someone and you see that this is someone who's like an absolutely amazing data scientist, but she might come from your community, that's a really powerful message to send. So I think being in the community is important. But I think also, sort of being in the places where people are, so various job fairs, Silicon Roundabout, making sure that you're telling your story about what's great, letting all of your people in your team tell your story really helps as well. But for us, we know that we get thousands of young people coming through our business, working in our business on a part-time basis, whilst they're studying, and that for us is great. So making sure that we communicate our opportunities. But we also work with Royal College of Art and universities, and we have a really robust program of outreach through JLab, as well our startup arm. And that's at all ages. So I think we've had some really young startups come through that process, and it's been a real delight to work with them and kind of early on help shape what they're able to achieve.
Amazing. So we have some questions that have cropped up. I thought there may be. In fact, pick a question. Is there anything particularly interesting?
You say that means I'm going to have to
Good.
show my age now and put my glasses on.
So, Sien, there's one there for you. Someone's called you out.
Yep. So we've just launched a fairly significant UX change. We've redesigned our look and feel, our brand. And what's the impact? How did this impact conversion? We carefully manage, and before we went live, we were testing robustly at every level what the impact of conversion would be. So there were no surprises, and actually we've seen some real positive uptakes, specifically on mobile. It is a mobile-first design, and I hope for those of you who've looked at it first on your 4.7-inch screen, and it looks absolutely fabulous.
Okay.
Go.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I did have a question up there that had my name on it, but it's gone now, so I'll come back to it if it comes back up. The skill sets you look for future leaders, and I was going to, because you were talking about skills a second ago. It might seem like quite an odd one, but and I don't know if you can class it as a skill, but I think bravery is and there's an old saying that everyone knows, and it's a bit cliched, but it's better to ask for permission than it is. It's better to ask for forgiveness than it is for permission. And I do genuinely think that that's what often a leader is there for. You know, it's very easy to train managers to do things in the right way. They follow a process. Leaders take initiative. They do things themselves, and that's what you're looking for. It's and that is, it's an extremely difficult thing to look for in an interview process. This is why I'm not a fan of a 3 people sit down, 1 person the other side kind of interview. It's you want a conversation. I mean, and most people in the company know this, that I never had an interview. I just met a few people in a pub, and that's how I got the job. And quite a few of the people in the company also got there. But that was the .com day, because I've been here a long time. But I do think the more relaxed you can make those environments, you can find out what those people are like, and you can find out the future leaders. I think that's a key one.
Joe, we'll go to you for this one as our resident man on the continent. London engineering, very international community. What risk do you feel Brexit will have on that pool of people, and how do you plan to manage it?
Yes, that's a question that is very much top of our mind. I really hope that we can maintain a flow of recruitments with nationals from many countries, not only Europe, but all over the place. Fearunique is now developing fast in Asia. We are looking at Middle East and other regions for development, and having people that understand the local culture is very important. But it goes beyond that. It's just in some specific fields you find that the best person is from wherever, and if you have visa issues, it's going to be a big headache for us. So hopefully things will be done in an orderly way.
Hope so too. So what are your businesses doing or planning to do to create a culture that allows women to thrive in digital roles? I'm going to have to give a call out to our fantastic Be Inspired initiative, which is really bringing some fantastic people together to have some brilliant conversations, something we're all very proud of. But specifically in your business, what is it that you're doing?
So we, at every level, we have an MD who's a woman. Our board is half female, and I would say our teams are probably 50-50. But I think it's once again, it starts with the perception of young children, both boys and girls, seeing people in roles, seeing leadership styles as being completely inclusive, and seeing us reflect that back. So in our teams, that we are open to diversity, any diversity of thought and of expression. And if those environments feel supportive, then they're places that people want to work. But we need to tell that story more. I think that people don't realize what career paths are open to them if you, your family, and your community have never had people working in those places or in those ways. And I think people don't really understand what it's like to be inside a business. I think a lot of people, the perception of John Lewis is that it's an old established company and probably quite conservative. So I think for my role particularly, and for the people in my team, is to tell that story of it's modern, vibrant, open, using the latest technology. And within that we're also extremely friendly to families. So if you are a person with children, that flexible working, that leave supports that need of a person, who's about to have children or has a few children.
I think for us, being a digital specialist in beauty, we attract a lot of women to the company almost naturally. But I think my issue when I joined was that they were underrepresented in management, and it took us about 3 years to get there, because it required some proper succession planning to make sure that we would be at parity, and now we are completely there. And maybe, I don't know, next stage is a woman CEO. But for the moment, it's me.
So have there been any challenges in your organisation? So if there's a very male-dominated company, as the minority, as a woman, it may be a difficult thing to get your head around. Have you had any instances in your business as a female-dominated company, where you've had men that have felt like they were the minority?
Not yet, but what's not resolved, and I think it's exactly what you are saying, is it's related to career and education, is that our tech team, it's still 80 or 90% men.
Okay.
So we still have an area where we don't find people that have the skills, women that have the skills. So I think encouraging women to be coding and to be really in IT is something that is going to take maybe another generation.
I don't know if it's a regional thing, but I hear that a lot from, although I know CN doesn't see that, which is good, but I've heard that a lot from businesses in London. And I think we've been lucky. I mean, we were talking about earlier, I think we're just over 50% of our dev team is female. Part of that is that whole thing we talked about right at the start, which is using modern technology means that actually, yes, historically, because historically more techies were men, if you're using the older technologies, then yes, you're probably the skill set is there, but the more modern technologies you're using, I think the only thing that's a problem there is generally universities aren't teaching the modern technologies at all, and that's one of the things we've now written a syllabus for Manchester Met for the first time that's going to go in this year, basically trying to rewrite their syllabus so it embraces modern technology, but actually doesn't get too focused on technologies, because one of the things is we get obsessed with, have you used this, have you used this, how you use this? Well, rather than wondering about JavaScript or AngularJS, actually, what sort of character are they? Can they use, if they've got good skills generally in whatever area there is, they can be taught new technologies. That's the thing they're good at. As long as they've got the right mentality, it comes back to this bravery thing.
So Cian, I think this is a brilliant question. In a well-established business, how did you change the culture and leadership to be aligned to modern day workforce expectations?
So it's a really interesting process. I think it's through listening and really understanding the needs of your team, but also through running experiments, really brave experiments to change things up. And I think that's been not just in leadership, but in moving to more agile ways of working, and devolving accountability and decision making to the lowest possible level, having really small teams who are accountable for significant chunks of work.
Could you share one of the experiments? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yes, I can. We have several, but I think one of our more recent ones is with some of our partners and shops. So we went to one of our annual retail conferences, and we had Slido, and all of our shop partners, who range in age from 16 to about 70, were saying, please, can we have mobile phones on the shop floor? Because actually our customers are coming in and they have phones, and we feel a little bit at a disadvantage, and we'd really like to serve them, but we aren't able to. Now normally what would happen is you'd go out and you'd do an RFI and you'd get a great company to come in and build you the latest, shiniest thing, or you'd go and buy something off the shelf. But we did something completely different. We put our UX team into the Cambridge shop, and we said, go find out what happens on the shop floor, find out what's difficult, what takes time, and then start building technology around that. That does a number of things. It gets real buy-in to the technology from the people who are going to use it, because they are building it. And these are partners who haven't generally, their opinion hasn't been asked. If you think about it, you get given a work system, you very rarely have any say in it. So they were feeling like they were designing the product, and they got to understand how technology is created. But also for the UX team, they were also able to really prioritize what would make a big difference in the lives of those partners. That has been an incredibly successful project, and at all levels people have felt like they've had a say, they've been engaged, they've made decisions about where the technology is going to go. And literally from the board saying yes, 90 days later we were in Cambridge, we rolled out to all shops a year later, 13,500 devices. But we didn't have to have a huge training program because we used consumer technology that's easy to use. The partners were incredibly vested in the technology because they'd asked for it, they'd shaped it, and actually they could train other partners to use it. And I think that's an example of the change. My role as a leader in that was to listen to what was needed, to literally clear the path of anything and create alignment, and then unleash the teams, both the partners and the tech teams, to do their best work. And I think that's the sort of signature piece. The role of leadership changes. My role is as a mentor and coach and to create alignment. My role is not to tell people what to do or to do their job for them. And I think that's probably the biggest change for people, is for people to recognize what this role of leadership is. And it's fundamentally different now because teams will arrange themselves. They will decide what work needs to be done and how best to do it.
It will indeed. Joelle, we like big statements, and you said that beauty is the next big wave for e-commerce. This question is brilliant. What has held this sector back so far, in your view, and why is that changing right now?
Yeah, the reason why it was late is a combination of reasons, but the main one is the beauty sector, premium beauty sector, is dominated by big groups. And the big groups were quite protective of the brands. They were concerned about whether e-commerce was the right space for selling a luxury product. And only until a few years ago did they allow for proper online selling and allowing for pure players such as Feel Unique. So there was not enough competition, and now it's all happening because pure players are taking a significant share in the market, and obviously consumers are now enjoying shopping online. The environment for shopping is much friendlier. You have a lot of material, content, videos. We even do for Feel Unique sampling for consumers to test the products before buying. So all of this is benefiting. I think another reason why it didn't take off is beauty is also more fragmented in terms of you have distribution agreements which are national or at the best regional, whereas in fashion it's global. And that slowed down a lot expansion of a company like Feel Unique. But a topic I wanted to address is now how you build teams to be international, and where do you put your resources? Is it at headquarter level? Is it at local level? Where is it relevant? What kind of profiles? These are all the questions I have for Feel Unique right now.
Okay. Gary, one for you, sir. High retention of devs in Manchester. I feel as though this will probably come from a retailer sat in Manchester. Aside from apprentices, how do you get those skill sets?
I'm going to really disappoint that retailer in Manchester then, because we're not actually technically in Manchester. I mentioned Manchester because it's the nearest big hub. Our retention strategy partly is about not being in Manchester. But we at one point, we seriously, about 4 years ago, thought about setting up a satellite office in Manchester because we felt that there's obviously loads of talent there. Yeah. And obviously, as anybody who works in that area knows, the BBC arrived about 5 or 6 years ago and absolutely destroyed dev in that area because they trebled, on average, and I'm not making these numbers up, they trebled the salary of your average development guy or girl, and the turnover of staff suddenly became hemorrhaging. So our focus has actually been about finding local people, becoming part of the local community. It's a little bit about you talking about earlier, and actually investing in the local area. So we're finding, and again, it comes back to that skills thing, is the best way to do is to find the skill sets is just find talented people and train them, as you said earlier. Have a constant, get them out in the community, have a constant training program so they're able to bring. What we're actually finding is it's not the CTO that's dictating the new languages they should be trying out. It's coming from below. It's coming from the guys going, I was out here, I've tried this looks really cool. I like this website, this does this. Can we invest in that? So actually, the skill sets, they're asking us, get us trained on these skill sets. So it's actually not about finding the skill sets, it's about finding the right people.
you got an example of something that the 16-year-old did that impacted your business?
Oh dear. I don't know. She basically had been there. I mean, I can give you an example of what she did. She'd been there 4 months. She was a 16-year-old apprentice, and all she'd be doing up to that point is building email templates. And then she applied for a development role from nowhere and had no development background, anything else. And she just went, but I will learn those skills, and I'll prove it to you. And then she essentially said, what skill sets do you need? Okay, give me a month, and at the end of the month, I'll prove to you I can learn that. And 6 months later, she was there.
That is the best thing we could possibly end on. So thank you guys so much. Thank you to all of you for your brilliant questions, and enjoy the rest of Tech 2018. Good guys.
Cheers, guys.
Okay, Liam and panelists, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Cheers. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so the end of a brilliant first day of Tech. Tomorrow we're kicking off at 9, but do please stay, network. There's your favourite site, a man with drinks just out there. So I'll see you bright and breezy for 9 o'clock tomorrow, but thank you very much indeed for your time and your engagement.